Hi guys, welcome back to 40 Plus and Unfiltered. So in today's video, we're briefly going to be talking about the system. In fact, we're going to be talking about the educational system. See, from the day one, right, we've been told that the schools are there to teach you life. They're there to prepare you for life. When in fact this actually looks like they're not preparing kids for life. They're preparing kids for the system. They're preparing kids for working for the system. And I talked about the system a couple of videos back where we're basically talking about working all your life to get pretty much very little in return and then spend the money that you earn to feed the system. So it pretty much works like the vicious circle. And it's the same thing as with children. They teach them more how to obey, how to follow the orders, rather than let them explore themselves and learn things that actually matter. Yes, of course, they're teaching them things in school, but most often than not, they're teaching them things they should not be teaching them, and yet not teaching them what they should be teaching them, if that makes sense. So see, the kids go to school, it's a uniform. You sit down, you do as you're told, you only speak if you're spoken to, or you have to raise your hand to talk. This is what it is. This is proper control. And of course, what happens when you go to work? It is pretty much the same principle, right? Normally, you wear uniform wherever you go. If you want to talk to somebody, you have to go through the chain of commands. But generally, your job is you go there, you do as you're told, and you earn some money. If you see where I'm coming from. So they're telling us the lie about preparing children for the future of life, for their life. But in fact, they are literally preparing them to work. And this is how that works. See, I will never forget, there was I think it was a little picture or something I've seen on the social media before I had the little one. And it was a picture of kids in school, sitting in the little desks. And I'm pretty sure you know how the school desks are. They're always all in a row. And then there was the children there writing, doing stuff. And then on the opposite side of that picture was a factory workers, right? And they were sitting exactly the same way, very similar desks, and doing whatever tasks they were doing. So it was very powerful to see, because you can actually understand if you comprehend what is actually currently happening with the whole system, how we are falling into the system, and we really have very little control, if that makes sense, when we're in that system. But that picture was so powerful to make you realize, well, actually, this is exactly what is happening. They're conditioning children to be workers. And I'm not saying work is bad, don't get me wrong. We all need to work, this is how we earn money. But they seem to be suppressing kids' ability to express themselves. See, in the old days, like saying, oh, if you want to be an artist, that would be frowned upon. This is like a hobby. This is not something that you should be doing. But the world is a big place. There are a lot of people that do things that count as a hobby, that could be done as something for the living. But it's never really been encouraged, or even encouraged now, as a thing you should be proceeding with. See, now, right, I grown up in a different country, in a school where the values were totally different. Of course, it was a long time ago as well, but they taught children family values. They taught children skills they actually need to survive, rather than skills they needed just to feed the system. See, for girls, right, we've been told how to sew dresses, we've been told how to cook, we've been told how to make things make do with things, how to mend things. And for boys, they were similar. Boys used to be taught how to work with metals, how to work with wood. Even boys were taught how to cook. I remember sewing a dress, like by hand, right? And I still remember how to do certain stitching. I'm not saying that it's potentially a very necessary skill, but this is the point, is that I have this skill and they're going to stay with me until if I ever need it or not. But this is not the point. We then, at the time, were taught decent things. And even I know here, I was speaking to my husband in schools, boys used to be taught specific things like a woodwork as well. Girls used to be taught different things as well. But suddenly, all of that is now disappearing, right? They're teaching children things they should not be teaching. See, I don't want to go into huge details, but kids don't need to know 60 genders. They don't need to be able to name them. They don't need to know that at all. All they need to know is how to express themselves, develop as decent human beings, and be able to cook yourself a meal. See, the trouble is, there was a research done somewhere, and I think I probably talked about it before, that they found when kids live in school and they basically go for their first job or job interview, apparently 40% of them lacking basic skills. And I'm talking about basic skills needed to live alone and survive in this world. So think about this, how horrendous is that? So what's the point of teaching them random things they don't need? I understand, generally mathematics and obviously the grammar, everything like that, is paramount, but maybe not to the extent. If you think, right, kids, I'm thinking my little one comes from school super tired. She's 5.5, but they're ramming constant information at them. Okay, they teach them things. I'll talk about her little school in a minute because it's slightly a bit different. But generally, kids go to school for years and years, for like 8 hours a day, and they constantly keep, being drummed in the information that's in a lot of cases not relevant. I remember myself, in my instance, the mathematics, we did the algebra and geometry, and to be fair, half of that really not really applicable in your daily life. I remember, okay, we want to now even to use calculators on the exams. I'm like, why on earth? Why would I? Because everybody will have calculators. But we've been told to be able to, now to calculate and do things yourself. To a certain degree, certain things are staying with me, so I can work out, the certain values of certain things, if that makes sense, mathematically. But generally, people do have calculators, fine. But a lot of that wasn't really necessary. But now, even now, more so, a lot of the stuff, it's not necessary, right? They're not teaching children the basic things they need. I've seen an article, I think in England, they are starting to talk about potentially teaching children money saving, or generally talk about money. It's a good idea. They need to start talking to kids about things that matter, okay? Things that they'll need, the cooking skills, growing skills, all of the things that A, grow them as people, and B, give them better future. Yes, you got to know certain things, right? But a lot of the knowledge that kids will need then to go to school will come from a later education. And like in my instance, thousands and thousands spent with a degree on business and marketing and law, and it doesn't get you anywhere, okay? But the point is still pushed upon you. It still says, well, this is a really good idea. You need to know this so you can get yourself a better future. So it sounded like Tony the Tiger then. But yeah, this is all the lies they keep telling us, right? Children need to be children. They still need to be taught, but they need to be taught appropriate things. And this is where I think the system is really failing. It's failing children, okay? All the future that kids are going to be, they're going to come out severely depressed because of the exams, like it happens all the time, because exams are super hard. There's so much pressure. And then they have nothing. And then when they come to get a job, they can't really get the job because they're actually lacking skills, even leaving the house, like living away from their parents, because they're not able to do anything, because nobody teaches them anything. But that's good though, because then they're all 60 genders, that's fine. That's acceptable, but they can't boil themselves an egg. So this is absolutely horrendous. See, the reason made me think about the video and somewhat appreciate a little bit, because our little one goes into the Welsh school, okay? So their primary language is Welsh, and they don't speak English at school. It's a secondary language. But according to school, apparently when they leave the school, her English and Welsh will be the same, written and verbal as well. This is what they're saying. But it's a very small school. She's got about 10 pupils in her little class. And genuinely, I think it's about 60 kids or 70 kids in school altogether. They have few teachers, so they're able to give them a little bit more of a time to do things with them, okay? And I understand it's not totally possible in the bigger schools, but saying that, it is all down to the curriculum. See, at the moment, she still comes back really tired. They're constantly doing things with them. But even at the age she's 5.5, they're still showing them very basics of, say, food. They're not necessarily cooking, but they're doing things like decorating biscuits or decorating chocolates. They are giving them opportunity to do those kind of things. They give them opportunity to go outside, collect things, be creative. She's forever coming home bringing something, whether she took something from the outside and then made it into something, or she drew something, made something with the cardboard. They're forever doing stuff with them, okay? And they're covering all sorts of areas of education and stimulation for children. I think this is really great. So I'm hoping that as she gets older in that school as well, that follows slightly better curriculum than anywhere else. And I know curriculum is curriculum, but obviously there are some sort of must be sort of borderlines of the options they can do. I don't know. But the fact is, because it is a Welsh school, is a small school, they seem to be doing a-okay. But that got me thinking how potentially lucky that she at least gets some of it, or some sort of education that is aimed at, rather than just looking at the paper, physical thing that she could be doing. Of course, it's really important as a parent, and I think this is probably where, as well, many people would say they having school teaching like pupils have to cook or not, that it should be down to the parents. But it's not always possible. A lot of times people don't know how to cook, and it's quite actually horrendous percentage of people in the country that don't know how to cook from scratch. And this is why on the other channel I did do back to basic things, where I'm trying to explain to people how to sort of do things from scratch, how to cook. Because see, if the schools are not teaching anything that kids really need to go forward and how to be able to survive by themselves, and then if parents are not doing this, then really the future for generations, it doesn't really look that bright, does it? See, the skills that we've been taught at school, the skills that I know, if I don't pass on those skills, then there will be nobody pass on the skills to the future generations, if that makes sense. So now, see, I do everything I possibly can to teach her, whilst I still can, to the knowledge that I have, for her to go forward, and to be able to be, when she grows up, to be able to do stuff without relying on myself. Because again, where some people think, right, the school system is there to support children, it really isn't. It's only there to support them, for them to then come out, go to work, and feed the system just exactly how they want it. So anyway, of course, guys, please comment down below your thoughts on education. Do let me know if you think there should be school responsibility or adult responsibility, parents' responsibility to teach their kids things like cooking or not, and anything else you want to comment down below. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching. I shall see you in the next one. Bye bye.